Let's move on to a critic of yours who plays fair to the extent that he certainly doesn't want all of Europe to become radical Muslim and understands that something is at stake. Christopher Hitchens, quote, Stein makes the same mistake as did the late Italian journalist Oriani Fallaci, considering European Muslim populations as one. Little binds a Somali to a Turk or an Iranian or an Algerian, and considerable friction exists among immigrant Muslim groups. Argument one. Argument two. Moreover, many Muslims actually have come to Europe for the advertised purposes, seeking asylum and to build a better life. Close quote. Calm down. Those 40% in Antwerp don't get along that well with each other in the first place, and some of them are there because it's Antwerp. They get to be less Muslim and more secular.
Well, I think the way to look at that is, with respect to Christopher Hitchens, is I think that was true a couple of generations back. I think, for example, if you take a Pakistani immigrant to Scotland, that just happens to be an example, a real-life example I happen to know, 1950.
Right.
That Pakistani immigrant to Scotland would have had a broadly similar education to the guy in Scotland. So in other words, he's coming to a land that he has been raised, in a sense, to live in. He's coming to the imperial metropolis from the fringe. So he already comes semi-assimilated. Now you take a Pakistani immigrant who comes in the year 2010. He'll have been educated in a madrasa. He'll know Islam, but not much else. He's far more foreign, in that sense, to Scotland than he would have been 50 or 60 years ago. But also, I think there is a difference. And this is where the numbers come into play, that was simply not possible to live in a Muslim world in inner city Scotland in 1950, whereas it is now. What you see in Malmo, Sweden, where Jews are fleeing, in the most progressive society in Europe, social democratic Scandinavia, Jews have concluded there's no future for them in Malmo, and they're getting the hell out of there. Why? Because it's a Muslim city, and in a sense, there are so many Muslims in Malmo that Sweden has assimilated with Islam rather than the other way around. So I think with respect to Christopher Hitchens, he profoundly overestimates Westernization. And Christopher should know this. There's a fascinating series of pictures that was published on the internet a couple of months ago, showing the female graduating class from Cairo University in 1958, 1979, and I think 2004. 1958, they're all bareheaded women. They look like young women, more or less not terribly different from young women you would have seen at the time in Western Europe or anywhere else. By 1979, half of them are covered. 2004, they're all covered. It's the arrogance, I think. It's the arrogance even of the left to assume that the societal pull is always in the direction of Westernization. In the Muslim world, that is not the case. It's gone backwards, and I think you can see evidence already that it's going backwards in northern England and other heavily Muslim parts of Europe.